everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining me today. I have a plan. Now, at any point in my plan, there may be many pivots and changes, but I think I've gathered everything that I need. I have a white background, which is pretty usual for me, then some backing and batting. This is going to be a sort of semi-quilt as you go project, I think. Then I have some grays and a black. I don't know that I'm going to be going that dark, but who knows. And then 3 bright solids. For tools, of course, I've got a rotary cutter, but I need some circles, so I have my ever-present circles, and then I also have some bias tape makers, which I think I will be using. I also have some fusible web and some stabilizer. So this involves, as you can gather, circles, which will be made from the grays and blacks and put on the white background. And then I'm going to be doing some bias tape with these. I know there's an alternative plan too. I don't know, but we're going to start with this plan and see how it goes. So my first step is going to be to make some circles from the grays, and I will be fusing them on. So I'll just use these to draw some circles on the fusible web, press them on the back side, and the solids, it doesn't matter, but press those on the back side of some of the solids and do circles of different sizes and ready them for appliquing. And I'll do machine applique, which I don't always do, but this is just a sort of a prototype to see if this is going to work. I've tried something like it and just haven't been happy with how it has, with its stability when I'm done with it. So I'm going to try this. We'll see how it goes. I'll be back when I have some gray circles. I think most of the noise in the neighborhood is finished. Everything accumulated at once. Emergency siren test and mowers and trucks, air conditioning run. It was something. I think it's better now. All right, so I have decided that I am going to cut down the size of this. I'm just trying this out. I'm not trying to make a masterpiece here in the end. So I've got a few circles of different grays. In an ideal world, I might make more of the larger ones, but I'm going to go with this and we'll see what happens. This is just a basic background for the main event, and it may be just as well that it's a little narrower anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse these down, and I might do another large one just because this is kind of bugging me. But I will get these fused down, and then we'll start on fused, and then I will stitch around. I'm just going to use white thread because that's what's in my machine, and we'll blend with the background. And I will come back when I've finished that. Okay, here's my final arrangement. I did add in another large circle, and I pulled out some of the smaller, darker ones because I thought they were going to draw too much attention and they were too spotty. Now this one you can barely see, but it's all right. This is the background. Now I'm going to use this stabilizer on the back to do just some zigzag stitching around the edges, and then we'll come back for the next step. Hopping back on again to point something out. This, I am not happy with the stitching on this. It is starting to pull in and sort of create a pucker there. And I was using this stabilizer for that, which is, I usually use a paper style, but I couldn't get it on the day that I needed it. So I got this, and sometimes I like it, but for this, I don't at all because, first of all, it's not sticky, but it's almost that sort of non-skid sort of thing, which would probably work fine in an embroidery hoop on a machine, but it does not move freely on the sewing table, mine, which is acrylic, so that there's drag on it, and I don't like that. So I just took some ordinary paper, because that's all I have of a paper type stabilizer, and I am much, much happier with that. So I will use the paper on the rest of them, even if I have to cut it off instead of tear it, and I'm going to take this out and redo it. This is just a prototype, but there's no reason for me to not be happy with it either way. So I will finish these up and redo that one. I have actually changed the orientation of this. Originally, how did I have it? It was like this originally, but I decided I wanted sort of this weight at the bottom, just because my eye is happier with the visual weight at the bottom. This poor one, I took out twice and redid, so it's not exactly perfection, but we'll quilt it out, right? Now, the next step is for me to just do a few straight quilting lines horizontally. Ordinarily, I would do my quilting vertically, because when I'm doing straight lines for quilting, I like them to be vertical, but in this case, you'll see soon why I want them to be horizontal. So these are basically going to be stabilizing or kind of tacking. They won't be basting exactly, but they're going to help to hold things in place when I do the next step. Well, 2 steps down, I guess. So I'll do, I don't know, 3 or 4 probably across and get it stabilized, and then I'll be back. All right, I have 3 tacking lines here, stabilizing lines, I should say. And you'll notice that I was so used to doing verticals to begin with that the first line that I drew, and I'm using air and water soluble marker, that I know is reliable. I did it as a vertical line, switched to horizontal, but actually this will turn out to be to my advantage in an upcoming step, I think, so I have left it there. Now the next step is going to be using these bias tape makers to make, I think I'm going to start with this width, which will give me, what, 1/2 inch? So I will put a link below in the description box, my video where I show how I use these to make the bias tape. And that is going to be made from these 3 fabrics. This raspberry, I'm almost rethinking, but I'm going to stick with it. I can always change it later if I want to. I think I want to go for the 1/2 inch. I'm going to go ahead and do this one. This is a size 18. Looks like it's about 1 inch, maybe? No, 3/4 of an inch. It's not 1 inch. Looks more like 5/8 of an inch. This is, I think, 1/2 inch, yes. So I will do one of each and see where that takes me. I think this is 1/4 inch, and I think it's going to be too narrow. But I will go ahead and make a couple strips and take it from there. So I used 2 different methods to make the strips I'm looking for. First of all, I used this 1/2 inch bias tape maker to make this piece, and you'll notice there are raw edges in the center because this is meant to then be folded over. However, or stitched on both sides. However, what I want to do is to have it this width, stitched down the center to hold this in place, but also as an extra texture thing. So it's still possible to do it. Question is whether I want raw edges there. So on this one, this is cut 1.5 inches wide, and I turned under 1/4 inch on either side just because I'm used to eyeballing 1/4 inch. So press that in, and then pressed a line in the center so I would know where it was, and then I am pressing to the center so that I have finished edges there. Now the 1/4 inch makes it a little bit iffy, but I can work it into what I want, and then I'm going to use clips to hold it while I do the stitching. So next I'm going to stitch down the center here, and we can take a look at it and decide which one we like better. All right, here is the one with raw edges, and it's a little harder to manage. I think I might have been able to just use a little bit of glue stick to hold the edges together. It's also a lot flimsier, of course, because there are fewer layers in it. And so it's a little uneven. In the end, I'm going to be twisting these, so that's probably not going to matter much. But, in fact, you probably really can't tell when it's twisted. Here is the one that I did that had the folded edges, and it is much neater and more even. There may be another reason. First of all, there's more structure here because there's more to it, and it's less flimsy. But also, when I was doing the first one with the raw edges, I was using an open toe foot. And when I did this one, I switched to a foot that has more coverage so that it was holding down the edges better, holding them more toward the center than with the open-toed foot. So that certainly had an effect as well, I think. All right, now you've seen that I plan to twist this. Here's my plan. I want to do a series of these across this background here in different colors, perhaps twisted a different number of times, but I want some of that, I don't know, three-dimensional quality about it. So what I will do is, since this one's going to be at the top and I expect it's going to go all the way to the bottom, but at the top I can tack this down in the seam allowance on the edge. And then I'm going to leave it alone for the time being, and I'm going to take another strip which may not start at the top, it may be somewhere else, and I'm going to tack it down. Not to worry, there will be something covering that. As you might imagine, it's going to be a circle. So let's think about a number of things that could happen here. I intend to make these different colors. I could also make them different widths, or I could just decide I'm going to make them all wider, or I don't think I would do them any narrower. Although maybe there might be some variety. You could do a narrow one in there. And you could also, particularly perhaps on this raw edge one, you could, on the side that has the raw edge where the edges are coming together, you could do something like couch silk ribbon on there in a different color, just for some added texture and color, and then stitch over it. And that would cover up those raw edges and also give you a little extra something. So the reason I wanted this stitched down the middle, if I can get this to, is so that when you twist it, you have a little bit of that extra texture there, and the line sort of flows in a different way, and I really like that. So I could also, I'm doing white here so that it blends in a little, ties in with the background, but you absolutely could use black or gray or a contrasting color. You could use a metallic thread. You could, let me think, oh, you could also stitch along the edges here. It just kind of depends on how much work you want to put into it and how much attention you want to call to these strips. Now, I purposely used these grays in the background because I knew I wanted these strips to be various colors, so I didn't want this to overwhelm the colors I was using here. I wanted it to just sort of be a background with some interest. And so that's why I pulled out the darkest of the circles, the darkest and the smallest, because I think that was just going to draw too much attention. But I could also do a higher contrast so that these circles are all dark gray or even black or black and white. You know how that goes with me. And then these would contrast more with that. So it's sort of the look that you want. This is going to be a little more serene than if I had, say, black and white here and then really bright colors in contrast. So what I'm going to do is do some strips in these other colors as well, and then we'll see how I plan to attach these and stabilize them. So for this one, the green one, I've decided that I'm going to try adding a little bit of padding to it. Pardon my thumbnails, I've been gardening and gloves don't help. Just don't look. So this strip of batting is about 1/4 of an inch wide, maybe just a narrow strip. And so I'm going to fold that into the center of it and stitch. See if this makes any difference. We'll see. Exploration is what we're about. I think that is the best so far. The batting kind of helps it to even out. I might make the batting just a tiny bit wider, but not too much. My other thought is, on one of these, I might want to try stitching along the edge as well. But I think I'm going to go with what I have so far. So I'm going to start, I think, in the center with, no, because I want the raspberry to be a smaller bit. Since I like this one the best, I'm going to tack this up here. And then the raspberry one, I think I want over here. And I don't know if I want it to go all the way to the bottom or not. I'm just going to make that decision here. Oh, no, I'm not yet, because I don't know how much width I'm going to need for the twisting. Now I can space these out relatively evenly, which just goes against my nature. So I think, in fact, I'm going to do this backwards, and this one will be, let me move this up. So this is not all the way to the bottom. Let me zoom out a little here, sorry about that. And then I'm going to take this blue one and maybe go, let me put these closer together. And move this one out a bit here, and it's probably going to be a short one. And then what I have left of this, after I twist it and secure it, I will then probably add over here, and then maybe some more green over here. So to begin with, I'm just going to pin these on so I know where I want them secured. And then I'm going to stitch across just at the very edge of them, their starting points. I don't know, I know where their ending points are, but I don't yet know how much of each I'm going to need to do the twists that I want. So to start out with, I am going to secure the ends of those. Just straight stitch back and forth a couple times. A couple of things I realized as I was doing that. Number one, they're all going to have to start at the top, as you'll see, wherever the top of the piece is, and the bottom, how long it gets, is just going to have to be decided as I do the twisting. And securing it, I'm not running back and forth, I'm just doing a basting stitch because it shows on the back. So I want to keep that to a minimum. So let's start up here. What I'm going to do is be twisting this, and I am going to, as I'm quilting, I'm going to be stitching in that twist. So I don't know if you've seen those three-dimensional pieces where there are pleats, and then say this was stitched down and the stitching goes across and pulls that over, and then down here it might go the other direction. But on this, as I'm quilting across, my quilting line is going to stitch across and hold that twist in place. And wherever I'm running my quilting line, if it crosses something like this, then it's going to cross that twist. And I'm already beginning to see that this thicker one is going to be a little tougher game here, because that's going to be a bulkier thing as I go over it. So now when I have tried this before with different methods, this is what I get, is the tension that you put on it when you twist it. And it might work just fine leaving the twist loose. I may end up doing that, which means that I want to do more quilting before I finish this. But that's a doable thing. Always before, I've tried various things to get the effect that I want, but I think, and I might in fact prefer to run across it when it's not at the twist, but where it's flat. And that way I can be quilting as I go, and the stitching then will help to stabilize the whole quilt if there isn't this tension of the twisted piece here. But we'll give it, now another option would be to tack this down with, I don't know, a bead or something, which is certainly a possibility. And to maybe give it something that will even out the twist. Do I want more twist than that? The more twist I put in, the more tension there's going to be on this strip. So I want to make sure I don't get it too twisted or too much tension. And this way, if I'm going to tack it somewhere, either with a quilting stitch line going across, I can also adjust where the twist goes. So I might want it to be like that, or I might want it to be straight, or a combination of those. And I can determine just where that twist falls. So my main question is, how much of a twist do I want in there? And I don't know the answer to that just yet. And how even do I want that twist to be? You have to make sure that that's one of the reasons I sort of want to tack it with a quilting line, is because then I'm not putting too much tension from top to bottom. All right, so I think I'm going to pin that about like that. This would be kind of fun for Christmas in red and white, wouldn't it? It's a candy sort of thing. And then I can adjust the twist as I go down so that it looks more even. All right, now my first quilting line, I should be marking my quilting line, shouldn't I? This is the one with the raw edge. So it can, this could look sort of like a, what do you call them? The ribbons that you can curl, curling ribbon. Doesn't that make sense? Okay, so I think I can twist this one more because it's a much thinner piece. And I think will be kind of interesting. I don't want this one to go all the way down, however. I think I'm only going to go about down to here. Now these two are starting at the top, and so their ends are going to be caught up and finished in the seam line, or the line around the edge. But my plan for the others then, let me go down to my circle stash. Is going to be something like that. And then the same down here at the bottom. So there will be more circles added. And those will be the starting and stopping points. I could do these in a different color. Say those could be in black, they could be in gold. I'm not entirely sure. But I do know that I want those circles there. I'm not sure about those sizes or even those colors for that matter. But then I'm going to twist these. I think I'm about done for the day here for this week, but I want to kind of get a feel for how these are going to look as I get them secured here. It's almost kind of interesting. This way I could do a tassel coming down there, couldn't I? And then this one will also get twisted, and it may or may not be. I kind of like the idea of I'll try that again. Use your words, Karen. Leaving these pretty loose. I'll call it loosey-goosey or something. And then they can flop around a little bit. So maybe I don't want them secured down too much. Or maybe I do because they need to be. So here, for example, I could do a quilting line across here and catch these flat edges going across. I maybe should have done some more quilting before I do this. That may be what I want to end up doing. Another thing I want to try, though, is a brighter color here. So let me go find a brighter color and see how that looks. I think I like it. It's more of a party, isn't it? And then this, I think I might even do a partial one down here to finish that one off. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that's going to be it for this week. In the interim, I'm going to do some more quilting across here, and it will be matchstick style. So wherever I decide to do quilting, if I decide to do more quilting with these, it will be in between, which is fine. With matchstick, that's kind of what you're doing. So, all right. That's it for this week. Next week, I'll do some more on this. This feels like it needs something colorful here, doesn't it? Some of you may have seen that I'm doing dangles for all of my bags. And so I'm in a bead mood. You know, I might dangle something from here. Who knows? Anyway, hope to see you next week. Let me know what you think, ideas that you have for what we might do with this. I am overall pretty happy that I had this neutral background going on. It could be reversed, of course, where you've got the colorful dots around, or just various shades of a color, and then have black and white or black or whatever contrasting thing for the ribbons. So many choices, so many choices. So I hope to see you next week when we work more on this. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out. I'm thinking I might want an orange in there. This orange is not as rusty as it looks here. It really is quite quite a bright pumpkin sort of orange, so I may try that next week too. Peace out.